skateboarding is still core to the brand.
100%. We're evolving that space as we speak.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the eSKATE Chat podcast with Evolve.
Are we going to use the technology from what's on the Hayden series?
It's changing that whole final drive ratio.
Surfing this endless wave through Tokyo.
Electric skateboarding is like breaking through.
Every time I wanted to drink, I would step on this board.
I heard somebody say, "Hey, Dean."
100%.
We'd love to build our own specialized eSKATE track.
I mean, the amount of thought that went into that.
I want to talk about how it affected the riders.
So I went skating with Tony Hawk.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Really?
It's a whole new product line.
I've done things I never thought I'd be able to do because of electric skateboarding.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to episode number 50 of the eSKATE Chat podcast. Now, I was thinking
Number 50.
I was thinking we should do something special for number 50, and as it turns out, now's kind of the right one. So we made a bike, right?
We did.
It's been a huge week.
Yeah.
A huge week.
Well, huge week for all those who are just coming to Evolve and who are watching us on the socials, but we've known about this for a long time.
Yeah. But the week's the big exciting part.
When we finally get to put it out to the world. So tell us a little bit about this project. Why did it come about and how long's it been in the works for?
Yeah, good question. I'm happy to take the lead on this one. Look, at the end of the day, we've been making the raddest skateboards for a long time. Like, you know, we started in 2009. So, you know, we've got a good 14 years under our belt now. And I've always been thinking, if ever we're going to do something different, what would the product be? You know, what's going to make sense to our brand ethos? What's going to fit into Evolve? And again, I just keep thinking it's got to be about fun. It's got to be about recreation. It's got to have a coolness factor to it. And so we've been electrifying many different things over the last, couple of years. We've done a combi, we've done a couple other sort of secret projects on the side, but we are most stoked about this. We feel as though BMX suits Evolve because it's fun. And I used to BMX when I was a kid. That's the other thing I used to do other than skateboarding. I used to, piss fart around my street all the time, with all my mates, skateboarding, and then went to BMX, and they're the products I grew up with. And then we just started thinking, what if we threw a motor on a real cool retro-looking BMX? And that's instantly I just thought, oh my God, that's the product. E-bikes are out there. There's so many of them. They've been around a long time. We are entering a market that's been there for quite some time, and this is niche. This speaks differently to what we're about, and it's just fun. It's recreation and enjoyment, and sure, you can get to places on, and that's the same with our skateboards. At the end of the day, we threw a motor, 2 motors. It started with 1 motor, but then it went to 2 motors on our skateboards, and it was always about just having fun. And this is it. This is Project BMX. Like, we are so stoked. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think what you said about the ethos of the brand really reigns true. We did the classic teaser campaign where we gave little bits of information and kept people guessing, and there was people going, what the hell is this? A lot of people said scooter.
Oh my God,
how many? But then there was a lot of people that said, nah, they wouldn't. They wouldn't do a scooter. It doesn't feel Evolve.
They know Evolve too well.
And thank you to those people. You're right.
Like we said, we've dabbled with other things over the years and we've tried other things. But when you get down to that ride feeling, we feel like we weren't crushing that ride feeling and fitting with the ethos of the brand. So ride feeling, aesthetics, and no compromise. So we've dabbled and we haven't quite nailed it. And when we did nail it on this, we knew it was right for the brand.
100%,
you got on it, it felt good. It rode like a traditional bike, so we knew we were onto something good. It was worth doing.
Yeah, and you were talking about the ride there. You nailed that perfectly, man. Because at the end of the day, it's all about the ride, and we love the ride feeling of our skateboards, and the bike just does that. And if we actually like to use it, it means that we're onto something.
Yeah,
we're not just making a product and not using it. If we love getting out there and having fun on it, it's right.
That reigns true to the skateboard side of things. There's been so many things people have asked us to do to the skateboards over the years. that we've dabbled with, and it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel fun. We don't like how it feels, and we don't do it. Speaking of the skateboard side of things, there's a few question marks about what's happening there. What's happening with Evolving Skateboards?
I'm still working on skateboard stuff as we speak, so like, you know, it's not stopping anytime soon. Yeah.
No, we're the Project BMX. We've just added another layer of awesomeness, of electric fun. At the end of the day, we're core electric skateboarding. That's what we're about.
We've had a huge year of electric skateboarding. We've had the Renegade release, the Enrique. Saying that right? Yeah, so like skateboarding is still core to the brand.
100%. We're evolving that space as we speak. So it's just the Project BMX, another layer. And for those that are thinking that we're not doing skateboards, no. Just look at this as us focusing on having fun as a brand.
All right, let's jump into what is Project BMX. So you sort of spoke about the ethos of, you know, why we decided a bike was a good idea, your childhood, and a fun thing. But when it comes to the actual product, what were we trying to make?
You know, we're trying to use a really authentic, old school, classic geometry of a BMX style cruiser, and we wanted to put a motor on it. And at the same time, a few of the design aspects that we're trying to achieve with this is that we wanted it to be minimalistic and not look electric, like what we do with our skateboards. And it's been a huge part of the design. A lot of work has gone into it. Do you want anything to that?
Yeah, like when you look at the market, and we talked about it, it's a huge market. There's a lot of people doing some really cool stuff. There's a lot of cool mountain bikes out there with these big batteries and these really big frame adjustments to accommodate these batteries. And that's awesome, but we knew that wasn't the category we wanted to ride in. Like when we were younger and you jumped on a bike, you weren't jumping on a big mountain bike to go downhill racing. You were jumping on a cruiser or a BMX bike. And part of that is that aesthetic, that clean frame, especially in the chromoly where, you know, the geometry is nailed and it looks light and feels light to ride. So yeah, we had to realize that we're in this niche, so we had to be committed to that niche from the design side of things, and that meant hiding the battery as best as possible.
Yeah.
And again, focusing on that ride feeling. So when you look at the bike, the focus from a design perspective was its profile looked like a traditional bike. You got your traditional wheels, no hub motors, nothing like, what do you say, clouding up that area. The frame just looks like a traditional frame, and you can't tell it's electric when riding.
Yeah, and as simple as it looks, like, you know, it's like the tip of the iceberg just coming out of the water, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So much goes under it, and so much careful consideration has gone into that look.
Yeah, like we spent so long on not just the battery and where its placement is, but every cable has been considered down to the millimeter of length just to make sure that
100%.
It looks as clean as possible, looks and rides like those old school bikes you had when you were younger. Yeah.
And the best thing
but
about
they're
it,
electric.
Yeah, but it's electric, but it doesn't look electric.
Yeah.
That's the coolest thing, and that's some of the funnest thing I've been having the last sort of 12 months on this, using it out in the public. You know, you feel like a gangster. You feel like another teenager again using it, and you're different, and it doesn't look electric. And people just go, "Where's the battery?" I've gone past so many guys on other electric bikes, come up next to me, goes, "Hey man, what you got going on there?" And it's just, yeah, that's the proudest thing I am of this product, is that it doesn't look electric.
No.
Job done, design done, well done.
Tick. Yeah.
Yeah, the confused look people get.
Yeah.
Especially because it does have the throttle. Like, you can just accelerate quite quickly, but no one can tell where it's coming from. So you get these puzzled looks. It's super quiet as well because, you know, it doesn't have gears, it doesn't have suspension. It's on normal, like, BMX cruisers, so it's just stealthy. And when you go, yeah, you get the looks.
And you can just jump on it and go, like, we have kept it really simple, like focusing on that. Jump on pedal, the pedal assist kicks off, and then you're going straight away. You feel like you've got guns for legs because it just pedals so nicely.
Yeah.
And then you have the throttle as well. So you're not really worried too much about it being electric when you're riding. No. It just comes naturally as you're riding. So that's really fun as well. Like, it's subtle in both ways.
There's no learning curve.
Ride. No, none at all whatsoever.
Yeah, like we've had so many people just jump on the bike, and from our team here, as we got a few people that work for Evolve, and it's just like, oh my God, don't even have to think.
Yeah, and straight away, they look like 12-year-olds again, smiles on their faces, and they're like, you know, getting down in the handlebars and cruising around. Yeah, it's a really fun part of it.
So the two major components we're trying to hide to create that aesthetics was the battery and the motor.
Yeah.
So that was largely on you, Jared, right?
Yeah. We've got some great manufacturing partners who also helped out a ton with that side of things. So, we worked with the original geometry and we knew what we wanted to do, and then they kind of took it to the next level to help not only hide those things, but make those things the best as possible. So we've got our mid-drive system, which is built into our frame, our chromoly frame. And the way we've integrated that is to ensure we've kept the geometry of the frame as right as possible for a 24-inch cruiser, but also hiding the motor as much as possible.
Yeah.
So it sits on that angle quite nicely, hides behind the gear, so you can't see it too much. And the weight is placed in a way where it feels right, like it sits underneath you there.
Deadly. Yeah, it's perfectly centered.
And then dialing all that in and making sure we're having the right tubing and everything to support that in that area. That was one side of it. And then we have our battery, which we've decided to put inside the saddle, which was a challenge in of itself, but the result has been really good.
So much work has gone into that.
Well, let's talk about
incredible.
the battery, because this is probably like the most unique part of the bike.
Yeah.
And something that did take an awful lot of effort to get right.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's like we've been making electric products for a long time, and I feel as though the saddle and this quick release mechanism is exciting for Evolve. Like, it's one of our best designs yet for in terms of functionality and the purpose behind it, and the end result because you don't see it. It's amazing. And in terms of, you were talking about manufacturing partners. We're stoked with the frame, our frame builder. We're absolutely stoked with the saddle manufacturer. We're aligned with some of the best in the business who make the most high-end OEM bikes in the world, the best brands. So we're in good hands here.
And that's helped take things like the saddle. It has all the adjustability and movement and feel of a traditional bike seat. So despite the fact we put a battery in there, we haven't compromised on the saddle itself. And they've helped us out a lot with that, like making sure that we are getting that curvature and the geometry right, the softness. So when you're sitting on it, it feels like you're just riding a bike. And we spent a lot of time playing with that shape and those contours and making sure that it wasn't grabbing in any areas, but it could still fit a battery underneath. So
and how many different versions did we make?
I was going through the numbers, it's been 18 months and probably a new saddle design was coming out every month to try and get it right.
It started off a lot bigger, and then we just refined it, and especially for the prototyping and the ride feeling, between your legs, it had to be just right. And getting those curvatures, and end result's been amazing.
Yeah, so when someone's on it, obviously the body does a bit of the job of hiding the battery as well, but you can't see it at all. You don't really know it's there, which I think is nice as well. Even the size of the battery, we took a bit of time considering what we want to make sure we got a range that we thought was suitable without going too big and making the bike this big bulky thing that didn't align with that cruiser mentality. We could have chucked a huge battery in there and made the saddle a bench seat, but then it wouldn't align with the original ethos of the aesthetics. So back and forth there until we found the perfect balance between the two.
Yeah, and
not
hence
a BMX
why we
anymore.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. We could have done something way bigger, and it wouldn't have been the same ethos. But that's why we made that quick release mechanism as well. There's plenty of range in it now already.
Yeah, well, let's talk range, because that's a big factor for when people are deciding what bike to get. It is quite different to a skateboard in terms of measuring range, because we've introduced pedal assist. We're not talking push assist on the boards.
Yeah.
So if you use throttle only, it's about 25 kilometers, which is, say, 15 miles-ish. I should check that.
Yeah, I think that's... Yeah, no, that's right.
And then up to about 60 kilometers or 37 miles on level 1 pedal assist.
Yeah, level 1 to 2, maybe 3, I think. And again, it depends on how you're using it. When you're riding, if you treat it just like a normal bike, there's often times where you've got plenty of speed and you just cruise. So you're often just using the neutral mode, and so it's got plenty of range.
Big adjustment from the skateboards and that mentality. There's a lot more throttle on with the skateboards, I feel, with the pedal assist and with the throttle. You kind of you're moving between your options here. So you find your range. We're getting a lot more range where you're not instigating the motor as much as you would because of the pedal assist.
Yeah.
And that up to 50 kilometers, 55 kilometers range, that's a long time to spend on the bike. And you do want to get out of the saddle and pedal a bit during that time. You just sitting there and being passive isn't what makes it fun, because it's so nimble. You do feel like you're going to pedal, not just throttle.
I've been using the bike for ages now, and I've been doing all sorts of different riding styles. And what I'm finding for me now is I love mode 2. Sometimes I go 3. and I pedal most of the time. And then, it's around, I'm hanging around sort of 25k an hour. It's comfortable. And then if I want to go faster, then I just stop pedaling and use the throttle. I often find that power is fine for me.
We did dial in the gear with the motor drive system in our firmware to make sure that we were getting, like when you're pedaling at a higher speed, getting up to that, what would you say, 36 kilometers is the top?
Yeah,
top speed?
No, it's about on a full battery, full voltage. It hits between 38 and 40.
Yep.
With the 500 watt. But in terms of the pedal assist, it'll go all the way as fast as your legs can go.
So we got that gear right, so you weren't kind of spinning out at lower speeds, basically. Yep. So we kind of dialed that in to make sure that you were comfortable pedaling for as long as you were comfortable pedaling. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Around the 26k an hour, you can still be quite comfortable. And then if you want to go faster, that's when you just start using the throttle and away you go.
Start cranking. Let's talk about the motor then. So it's essentially a whole drive setup.
Yep, mid-drive. We're working with Beifeng. It's the M560 motor. It's their latest design. Everything is within the mid-drive. Super smooth, super quiet.
Yeah, IP rated, sealed drive system, steel gears on the inside.
Yep.
With our own kind of firmware that we've kind of dialed in some of the parameters. So those speed modes and your pedal assist come in at just the right time, so it feels just right. Going mid-drive was a big choice for us to make sure that it rode like a traditional bike. You see mid-drives in a lot of mountain bikes or some of the higher end bikes because you're getting that ride feeling where the power is coming directly from where you're pedaling. A lot of hub motors out there in similar kind of urban style commuter bikes, but that kind of offsets the weight and did impact the aesthetics, but ride feeling primarily. So the choice to go mid-drive was an intentional decision. So when you got on it, it felt like you were pedaling and your pedaling was driving what you were riding. So it was a big choice there.
Yeah, and we could have easily done a hub motor, but hub motors are everywhere.
Yeah.
You could easily slap on a kit, but this is not that. This has been carefully considered and with the high end focus of just what that ride quality is all about. It's got to be natural. And
the drive system is connected to the throttle and the display. That's all internal cable routing gone into that. So it's all the Beifeng system, but with a bit of a Evolve touch to it all.
Yeah. The mid drive is a big point of how this thing rides. Like I've been doing this film. Obviously, I've got about 20, 30 people in this film. So there was a lot of people that had to ride the bike.
A lot of feedback.
And then a couple of those guys are core bike guys. They ride bikes a lot and they're familiar with e-bikes. And they were surprised at how much it rode like a BMX or like a mountain bike street type situation. And a lot of that came down to the weight distribution and the geometry. But as soon as you put a big motor in the rear wheel, it changes everything. It changes how it dips side to side. It changes the power delivery. It changes just how you can get the thing off the ground because you're not pulling the center weight up. So I think people really need to ride this thing and understand what those differences is because like you said, a lot of those bikes you see out there in the commuter scene, they are this big, heavy hub drive thing. And this is a huge point of difference.
Yeah, no, well said.
Yeah, totally agree.
I can't add anything to that.
Yeah.
It's all about the ride, and we're stoked that we chose the Beifeng system.
Like we went through a few different motors as well to find the right one,
Yeah.
and what we settled on is just perfect for what we got. Do we touch on the firmware side of it? How we do have the 500 watt?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Like it will be a 500 watt on launch.
Yeah, that's right. So we basically got two options. We've got a 500 watt, which has a max speed of around 40k an hour, 38 to 40, depending on how heavy you are, I guess. And there's no limits on speed. It's just how fast you pedal. The throttle can be removed. You can take the throttle off and on quite easily, and it still sticks with sort of the 500 watt base system. It's a 36 volt battery, but we do know there's some different laws around the globe for e-bikes from Australia, New Zealand, over in UK and Europe, different to US. So we have also made a firmware base that speaks to those markets. It's a 250 watt. It's got plenty of power on the motor still. It's 130 newton meters of torque in it.
Yeah.
And then, but on that 250 watt firmware, the pedal assist cuts out at 25k an hour.
Yeah, it's essentially a compliance version.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for the people that do want that, it's
we got it, and it's really easy to do. It's different firmware. Take off the throttle, and there you go. You have it. But then one of the cool things about it, though, if you're on the 250, if you do fit the throttle as a aftermarket, it still keeps it all 250 watt, but then it sort of unlocks that extra speed.
Throttle power,
the throttle power, and it'll take you up to the top speed, but just at 250 watts. So that's, we'll probably offer those aftermarket as well.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about the control. So obviously, this whole thing's about aesthetics. We wanted it to be quite simple. So we've gone with quite a subtle control system on the headset.
Yeah, like the display we chose was trying to keep it as small as possible. And then we found pretty early on when we were riding, you weren't looking down at your speed. You weren't looking down at some of these displays are huge of all these readouts and all this data, but you're riding, you're looking ahead of you, you're having fun. So we realized that we could move away from these really big displays and just focus on the smallest one with key data. So you got your battery percentage, you can change your modes, you can control a rear light that's built into the battery through it, and it's this tiny unit that really sits subtly on the handlebars, nice and small next to the grips. We found that's all you really need, because most of the time, like I said, you're having too much fun to stare down at a display. And then we have a throttle on the other side as well, and then we've kind of built in all the wiring and routing for that to be as minimal as possible, so we don't have excess cables anywhere. It's really, there's 2 cables that come out of the front, and that's it.
I find when I use the bike, I never look at the speed. The only thing I look at is really how much battery life I have or what speed mode I'm in. That's it. I'm not even worried about the...
And it's pretty intuitive to like a tactile rocker, so you can change modes and you kind of know you've changed modes. You can kind of get a bit of feedback there. And you kind of feel what's going on. So it does display what mode you're in, but most of the time you kind of know from what you're doing, the actual riding. Yeah, you focus on what's most important. It's about the ride. One of the cool things too I like about it, you can easily swap the displays and the throttles from either side if you wanted to. You can take the cables out and move them around, or put them both to one side. So there's some customization opportunities there. I've been thinking about the way to describe that is the electronics is kind of divorced from the bike side of the product. So that little customization is across everything. So kind of one of the benefits of having the mid-drive motor as well. Like your wheels are just traditional wheels. Your handlebars, the stem, all that is traditional. Your grips, so you want to go out, and we'll probably talk about customization a bit later, but all of that you can kind of customize to make it your own. You can change the angle. We're not limiting the rider by any means there, except with the saddle and the mid-drive area, but everything else you can make it your own. So if you're comfortable with one brake on one side, you can go for that system as well. Yeah, that's what I did with the Skyway Chrome version. Everything was all on the right. One brake, rear brake, and throttle and display. Just moved it all around and just more minimal again. Just keep it clean.
Let's talk about what is a 24-inch cruiser, because obviously it's called Project BMX. We all think of BMX as different things, whether it's those little racing bikes from the 80s, whether it's the cruisers like this, or whether it's what they're riding nowadays at the skate park. I guess, what's your explanation of a 24-inch cruiser?
My explanation is it's perfect for adults. It's the sizing, and given that it has compared to like a traditional sort of 20-inch, the 24 has better rolling, and it's easy to pedal, and it still has all the capability of like the being whippiness and agile and handling, but yet you can still just lift the front wheel and pop off gutters if you want. I think it's a great all-round size for performance, but also just cruising. If you want to just go for those long, lazy rides. It's at the end of the day, it's a BMX Cruiser designed for grown-ups. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I agree. It's a BMX for adults. Like, I'm kind of tall. I'm 6'5", and I can ride this thing like without a problem. My knees aren't up over my shoulders. I'm not too crunched up. And then I think we measured it out about 5'4" would be about the minimum height you want to be.
Yeah.
When the seat's all the way down. So it's got a pretty good range of sizing, but it is, an adult's BMX. And then I kind of think of it like it's got the sizing kind of like a small mountain bike, but then it's got the rideability of a BMX when it comes to a level of control, the way the angles are set up, the head angle and the smaller wheels, the wheelbase. It's very nimble, and because you're not losing to big fat tires, you're not losing to suspension or gears. Everything feels so precise.
Yeah,
that's what BMXs are. They're just like a very precise ride, and that's what I like about it.
Yeah, like we looked at a lot of traditional geometry from the get-go and kind of had to scale it up to match like an adult size. And then our like frame supplier just took that geometry and dialed in all those angles because they've been making similar bikes in a non-electric sense for a long time. And they were able to just go like, no, this is the angle you want here. Like just crank it up a little bit there.
Yeah.
And I think that's where that ride feeling, that nimbleness we keep coming back to.
Yeah.
Like that's definitely in the frame. And then I think the 24-inch wheels kind of give it the right rolling ratio to that frame size as well. So it kind of just cruises and gets good range. Otherwise you go too big and it's not quite any of that anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have anything else to add to that. You guys it's all about the ride for me. I love the size of it.
I have something you will like to add to. Okay. So while we're talking about wheels, you're a big fan of the Skyway Toughs.
Okay.
Here we go.
Right, yeah. I mean, come on, I grew up in the 80s. I was born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s. I just remember my old, actually it was one of my neighbours, he had a BMX and it had the Skyways on it, and I was so jealous. It was the coolest bike in the whole street. I just remember all the old movies, and that's what I see BMX is just the old Skyways. And I always just, as soon as I see BMX bikes with that, I just go, I just love it. During our prototyping stage, we bought some of those. We had to do it straight away because it's nothing cool than having a retro BMX with that, especially electric. And from there we played around with the brake system, and we were using the V's on it, the U's and C brakes, and we were always thinking, I wish there was, you could put mechanical disc brakes on it. And then we did our research around, there just weren't any, there weren't, we even contacted Skyway about it. And then that's when we started looking at it and looking at the design of the hub, and we just thought, this is like our wheels, well, why don't we try to make some kind of system where it can just sort of adapt in there and use the female part of the hub and make a bracket for it. And that's where we set off.
Yeah,
right?
It's kind of funny because we were in the bike mindset by that point, looking for solutions in the aftermarket bike area, and then we realised, we know how to make things.
Yeah.
We've done this before. We know how to do our own designs from scratch, and we figured it out, like a little system that will allow a disc brake on the rear. Yeah. So you get that nice, strong braking power, which you kind of want on the electric bike when you're going at these higher speeds. And also maintaining the look of the Skyway Tough, so it's not really impacting it. We were worried we're going to have to put these big hubs in there or do all these things that would take away from that look, but I think we've achieved a pretty minimal finish here.
100%. Yeah, it's kept the retro look. We keeping the plastic and untouched by having those brakes on it, and it's like a bit of old school meets new school. I'm pretty proud of that design.
And more customization there again. You can choose your Skyway Toughs that you want. You can choose different tyres. You could choose a different 24-inch wheel. Like the frame is adaptable. It ships with mechanical disc brakes. But it also has mounting points for the the V and the U brakes, front and rear. So
anything.
If you have a specific riding style or just a level of customization you want, you can achieve that because you're not limited by the bike at all there.
Yeah. Well, that leads on to, I guess you touched on it earlier, but all things accessories. And what it means having a bike that is more traditional in its componentry when it's not talking about the electronics. Bars, pedals, grips, tires, chains, all that shit. Like people can go to town, take it to a normal bike shop and get whatever they want. So I think there's going to be a crazy level of customization, even more so than we see with the boards because there's so many options available. I've had guys message already going like, what's my color kind of going to be? There's guys that want to get all gold bolts for the black bike, or Andy wants to put red tufts on, and then he'll get his red grips and all that. So they're already thinking about that, and I think it's going to be crazy exciting.
Yeah, the base of the frame, the chrome and the matte black are pretty much like, they look great by themselves, but they'll be like blank canvases for all this customization. Like people want to put traditional pads on there to, you know, brand it up or whatever, like, or race numbers. You'll see all sorts of things very quickly, I think. It's not like the boards, like there was no bash guards for skateboards out there. We had to make our own.
Yeah.
Whereas bikes, there's a lot of accessories out there. So we basically decided to add some mounting points to the frame, like a traditional bottle mount and some rear rack mounts on the rear fork. So we could be adaptable with aftermarket parts that are out there already. And then we might do some cool stuff in the future as well. Which is kind of exciting.
It'll be interesting what we do finally see in the market when we get this out, what some people do to it, especially around the mounting points as well. And like the cargo, I just had this vision there of some beautiful sort of cargo set with a nice, you know, on the chrome with the silver, and then with a beautiful sort of timber cargo sort of carrier on it.
Paneling there. And like we put surfboard racks on it and it rides really well with that. So I can see a lot of people getting into that straight away.
Yeah, there's been a few questions. You can fit a board inside a surfboard rack.
Yeah.
So
skateboard, yeah.
Yeah, you can cruise with your Hadean on the side of your Project BMX.
We should do it. We need to show that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done it with the surfboards already in the video. But I think that'll be kind of cool. Chuck the Renegade on it.
Yeah. Probably should mention, so with the battery pack that we've designed, so it's in the seat and we put in a little lock bar at the front, so you can run like a 10 mil like cable lock through it and lock your battery to the seat and to the frame. So the way we've done it is when you run a cable through it, it will lock your saddle and your battery to the frame. So you can't just pull the seat post out and run away with one of the more expensive parts of the bike. So we took that into consideration as well. And then with the battery as well, you could probably run a spare because it is swappable pretty quickly to swap.
Yeah.
So a little push button lock underneath there and an unplug of a cable. And so you could store another one in your battery pack, or, you know, maybe you have racks or something like that. You can store another battery on that. So yeah, it's pretty versatile.
Charges up pretty quick too.
Roughly 3 hour charge time.
Yeah, I reckon it's even less than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's if it's fully dead.
Yeah. That's when we'd be doing these big range tests. Running it dry. Yeah.
Yeah, I find it gets to full really fast, which is good.
Let's jump into a couple common questions we've seen, because the campaign's been out about a week now.
Yeah.
So we've started seeing people asking
Waterproofing.
Waterproofing,
Yeah,
that's always a big question.
Yeah.
Jared, you're the man.
Yeah, well, we've been looking a lot into our boards and what we've been doing with seals there, and there'll be things coming out later this year that improve sealing in some areas. And then because we started this from scratch, new supply chain, new electronic system with a battery and a new battery supplier, we decided we wanted to make this the most robustly designed battery that we've done. So there is a full internal seal, and it's designed towards a UL spec long term, because we're keeping an eye on what's happening in the electric market, and we kind of want to be ahead of it as much as possible. So we've chosen these really robust plastics for impact proof. It has to pass a lot of ISO testing as well, being a bike, a bit different to the skateboard. There's standards we have to meet. So the battery pack itself is probably our most advanced battery pack that we've put together. Also trying to get it as small as possible, had to make it pretty advanced in that regard. So yeah, we've sealed up the battery pack, and then our drive system is UL rated and IP rated, as well as the control system, and all our cabling has been through our cable supplier, wiring. They're all IP rated connectors as well. So it's going to ride really well in all conditions.
Yeah, I guess the way the wheel spins, you know, if you're riding out in the wet, don't have a mud guard, you're going to get that nice little wet line up your back and on your ass.
Nothing stopping you from chucking a mud guard on
as well.
It's going to fit.
Yeah.
Cool. What else we have? Sorry, we're going to have to cut that.
Yeah. Well, let's. I mean, we've been on this this has been in the works for a long time, and although this is only new to the customers now, we've only been talking about it the last sort of week and a half. Like, it's just, with so much work has gone into it, and we are well into production as we speak. All the frames are in production now. All the bike parts are just about ready. We're pretty much at the back end of it. So in terms of shipping wise, should be early 24.
Cool. Well, that's a big question. When the hell can I get it?
Yeah.
And so let's jump into that. We're sort of doing a pre-order deposit system with an extended ship time. Early 2024 is when they'll be here.
Yeah.
But as of Sunday, which is tomorrow from the day this podcast comes out, they will be available for pre-order.
Yeah. Yeah. So what we're doing there is we've got two options. We've got a deposit system, or you can buy it up front. The deposit system, depending on what location you're in, it's like 100 or 150 deposit, and then it'll be full payment before shipping. But if anyone who wants to purchase now in full, we are going to offer a slight discount on purchase, and depending again which location you're in, it could be $200-300 or something like that. But we just need to stress that we're not making a huge amount of these initially. There is limited stock, so it is kind of first in, best dress at the end of the day.
It is a brand new supply chain for us and a brand new product category, so we want to get it right. Production's well underway and we're seeing everything come together really nicely, but we just know from our experience that to get it right, we've got to make sure we take our time with it and focus on all those details and get that over the line. So we're working on that every day at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. You want to add anything to that?
Other than like the deposit thing, I guess the choices people have, obviously color, black and chrome.
Yep.
And then they have the option between the traditional spoked wheels and the Tufts.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the options they got, 4 different combos.
And that's another logistical challenge for us as a business trying to manage.
Yeah, well worth it though for that tough look.
Yeah, the tough look. I like it. It definitely looks tough.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure though, we got to test the market. We don't know what people want yet in terms of that, the Skyway or the traditional sort of spokes, but it's going to be a learning curve once we go live.
I think that's pretty much it for now. And then it goes live tomorrow and there's so many people super excited about it. So I hope this...
The feedback, I have to admit, the feedback has been phenomenal. For me, I would be lying if I wasn't sort of saying I was a bit nervous about this because it's such a different direction. But we're not going down just that direction. Like we said, we're a skateboard brand. We're just adding another rad product line here. Seeing the feedback online, I know how I feel about the product. It's just so fun to use. If you build it, they'll come. And we're building something pretty fucking rad here.
Yeah.
So we can't wait to see what happens. It's a big market out there. It's a different product.
I think once people get on it and have a ride, that's going to be the selling point for a lot of people. I think the videos really capture the essence of it, but we just know every time someone jumps on it, they have a great time. So as soon as we get them in store and people can try them, I think that'll be a big selling point there.